Hey there, Groovesters and Groove Stars. Ridgely here with another Groove Growth program. And I'm so excited to bring on a very dear friend. We go back many conversations, many glasses of wine, many stories told, many beautiful, amazing late night moments, and a genius at relationships and connecting people. CEO of Pure JV, my brother, Charles Byrd. Welcome to Groove Growth.
Thanks so much, Ridgely. It is a pleasure to be here.
And I know, man, you are just all over the world hanging out with the who's who of the universe, because in connecting people back and forth, you are a true wizard. However, it didn't start out that way, man. Your journey to entrepreneurship has been a very unique one. I wonder if you'd be willing to share your journey with our Groove community.
Yeah, of course. So I did what my dad recommended: go to school, get a job. Those were the marching orders. So, and I even got a business degree, but it seemed that at no point people were bringing up entrepreneurship. It just go to school, get a job. So I worked in the Silicon Valley for 15 years. I was a director at a billion-dollar software company, and I did enjoy it, but I also wanted to do something a lot bigger and have more freedom and make more money and make a lot bigger impact than my work impacted 6,000 employees on a regular basis, but I wanted to reach way more people. So I left to get a taste of the entrepreneurial freedom I read about in books. And that's when I came over to we'll call it the light side, to become an entrepreneur. And even that journey in itself took some nudging. I tried to spin up a few companies while I worked in corporate, but it's something you really have to be all in on, at least in my experience. And at the time, I think I was a little too comfy. I made decent money, and it was kind of a nudge from my mom. I got a call from her, and she had that serious tone in her voice, and I thought maybe one of the kids she adopted from Sierra Leone were having trouble in school, but it wasn't that. She'd been in a minor car accident the day before. She thought she was pressing the brake, but wasn't, and hit the car in front of her. And then that day she was reaching for a fork and physically kept missing it by 6 inches. Took her to the hospital and found she had 2 stage 4 brain tumors. And I could barely crawl through the door to tell my family this, and that we piled in the car and went to Central California to be with her, going into brain surgery that very night, and basically lived down there most of the next year taking care of her. My mom lived 1 year to the day from when I got that call. And what it crystallized for me is life short. If there's something you want to accomplish, if there's an impact you're looking to make, if there's a quality of life you want to create, freedom you want to experience, now is the time to take action on that. And that really was a catalyst for me to make that decision to come into entrepreneurship. I had this piece of wood made that says, I can, I will, end of story. Meaning, I don't care if I blow all my money, if I fall on my face, I'm going to figure this out. I'll get back up again and I will figure it out. And so that initial product was a low-cost productivity course. And being new to the marketing space, I had no list or connections at the time. So started going to a lot of events and connecting with people online, and quickly found my new peer group of entrepreneurs already had my ideal clients in their communities. So started setting up presentations to other people's audiences, delivering high-value trainings, and then offering that deeper dive course, and started making sales, growing the list, making a positive impact, and thought, well, what if I do this all the time? What if I take my IT and systems background and simplify and systematize the entire joint venture process, which I did. And eventually people wondered how I book 2 to 6 joint venture promotions per week for my own offers. And I was at a mastermind in Aspen, and my phone's blowing up, messenger messages, emails, texts, people knocking on the room door, like, how the hell do you do that? So we were sipping whiskey that night, and I'm like, if everyone wants to know this so bad, I'll put together an event and teach it. So that's where Pure JV was created pretty much that night. And that's what I've been doing ever since, helping businesses scale with joint venture partnerships, helping them create a JV strategy, identify ideal partners, how to get connected to those partners through warm connections, how to guide the conversations to land the deals, and how to operationally execute those deals, along with turning each one into 2 or 3 more. And super satisfying. 6 clients in the last year have done 1.5 to 6 million from me showing them exactly how to do that.
It's interesting, man, because you have a trajectory that is not uncommon, but also not common, of having that background in that corporate space. But then there was a trigger moment, and the trigger moment was mom. And mom and mom's, challenge, and obviously her subsequent passing, led you to saying, wait, forget about it. I can, I will. Which, by the way, I love. When I was working very closely with Jim Rohn, one of his great sayings was, how long should you keep trying? Until. That's it. That's the only answer. Until you get it done. And then, of course, you brought your experience from having formal training, which a lot of entrepreneurs simply don't have. I mean, there's so many entrepreneurs that are out there that they don't have a formal background. They've got an idea, and then they see that there's a course, and they buy this course, and they start down the path, and then they jump in. So I want to ask you a question that I think a lot of us would want to know, which is, how did the formal training that you had in the corporate world help your entrepreneurial journey, and what could we all learn from that?
Sure. So I'll add even a little more color to it. I think you can pull from life experience across the board. So when I was going to college, I was a server in restaurants. I learned customer service. When I worked in corporate, I started on a help desk. Again, people skills, customer service. Even when I played in a band for 15 years, booking shows, following up with people, those kind of skills and details, I think you can draw from your own experiences, like the master's degree in information technology. Is that helping me now? No, and I don't think it hardly helped me then. I think you can tap into life experience and modeling what is already working and simply emulating that to the point. I have a client named Alaric Heck, who's a YouTube ads expert, world-class at it. And he promoted a gentleman named Charlie, who's in his late 20s. He'd never even heard of a joint venture before I trained him. And he books a JV a week like a machine, simply by taking a proven system, in this case, one that I provided, and just following it. So buying that course, hiring that coach, surrounding yourself with the people already accomplishing what you are seeking to accomplish, diving into conversations with folks and always learning. It's a way faster path. I have these debates with myself and with my daughter on if she should even be going to college, because I can show her how to make millions of dollars way faster than they can. So it's like life experience, but you're going to push all these boulders up hills that aren't going to provide you value versus doing things that will.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you a question. If you were to look back on the beginning and history of your entrepreneurial journey, tell us about the one setback that stands out in your mind, the one challenge that you had to overcome, and what you learned from that.
Oh, well, I'm sure there's way more than one, but one that I suppose would stand out would be learning to sell, learning to sell, and B, learning to sell high ticket, and gravitating toward high ticket way sooner. When I came into the space, people did want to hire me for consulting. I wasn't interested at the time because I was coming out of an environment where I'd be running projects for 8, 12, 3 years. Like, I didn't want to be tied into long-term things. So I'm like, I'm just going to make a course and sell the hell out of it, which honestly did work, but I could have made way more money way sooner had I picked up some private clients, created a signature process sooner, then started scaling that. So selling high ticket and then choosing to go up market. What this means for anyone who doesn't know what that means is you can have low cost products, middle of the road products, super expensive high end products. These are market segments that you can go after. And the truth is, this will sound weird, but I swear to God, it's true. Selling high ticket to the people that is a good fit for is a way easier sales conversation than selling a $2,000 thing. In fact, that's what always drove me further up market is people in the lower investment tiers have less belief in themselves of what they're capable of doing. They're less developed in their journey, and frequently money's tighter. And it's nothing bad about being there. We all go through our phases. But if you're working to sell something and it's easier to sell a 35K offer than a 2K offer, hello.
That's a very interesting point that you make, because I, being one of those guys who's blessed to say I'm in and not actually pay attention to the price because it's not as relevant as the value that I'm going to get from the price. I mean, unless it's absurd, right? But I think that's really true. What you said there that I'd not really thought about until you just said it was the people who are in that position to spend the $20,000, $30,000 on a program. Part of it is because the confidence that they have in themselves to execute the program and gain the benefit from that program. I mean, I think back on the past year, and in the last year, between my partner and myself, we've spent well over $100,000 in coaching programs, $100,000. And I never drew that connection that you just made for me, Charles. So thank you. That it wasn't so much that the program was the thing. It's that our confidence in our ability to execute the program and gain the benefit from it made that investment worthy. I'd never seen that connection before. That's a really interesting thought, brother. Thank you for that.
Yeah, my pleasure. It was, for me, it was a very conscious journey, because when you're new to this stuff, it can feel petrifying to sell high ticket, because you go through like, is this worth it, and this and that. You always have to think of the value to who you're talking to. So like my client Jackson Milan, he invested high ticket with me. He's generated $6 million from what I helped him with. I should have charged him 10 times as much, and it would still be insanely worth it. Another client of mine who does, he helps companies exit. He's acquired over 120 companies, exited 28. I was just hanging out with him in Phoenix last week, even though he's from London. We happened to be in the city at the same time. I have a testimonial I shot from him. I've 10x'd his business to the point he can't keep up with the leads and needs to scale his business. So what's the value to the right person? And so think of your product, your skill set, your expertise, and think, what market segments can I take this to, and how valuable will it be for them? And then consider going there. Now, I'll give you a tangible path to do that. So I had done a JV promotion with a good friend of mine, Bill O'Hanlon, super cool guy. Actually, his son is the guitarist of 311 for anyone who's into music, but psychologist. So a psychologist woman bought the program. At the time, I was selling a 2K program, and bought it on a Friday. And by Monday, she was demanding a refund, even though she hadn't logged in. So I talked her through that, downsold her into a $400 thing. She was happy about it. 2 days later, she wants a refund from that. She had no belief in herself that she could implement these things, which is why she was afraid to invest. And that very day, I'd been asked to speak at a mastermind called Baby Bathwater in Croatia. It was like 8K at the time for me to go. And I barely had the money for it. And I'm like, I am consciously moving up market. I'm going to surround myself with my new ideal clients. And oh my God, I've never, ever looked back. That just continues happening. So the moral of that story is look at what you're doing that provides value. What's a higher level group you can bring that to? And trust me, it's not a selfish approach. When you're helping people that are already successful, that positive ripple effect of the value they're bringing to the world is further amplified by you supporting it. So it's a similar example to, you could go ladle soup at the soup kitchen, or you could go make a decent amount of money and hire a whole huge team to be doing that and make a way bigger impact than you would individually.
Yeah, it's kind of like that famous chef that's doing all this work all over the world, providing all the meals in Ukraine. And every time there's an emergency, that same guy shows up and he knows how to mobilize hundreds of thousands of people to feed 100,000 people a day or something like that. It's super crazy. Like Jose, whatever his name is, the guy's amazing. But let me ask you a question. I want to tap into this mindset, the Charles Byrd mindset thing here, because this is key for a lot of entrepreneurs, especially if they're early in their journey. What would you say to the person that heard the message you just gave us? Very powerful. And they're having that self-doubt thing. How do we help people overcome that self-doubt so that they can feel comfortable finding the right audience segment and going after that segment with a higher ticket offer?
Yeah. So here's how I recommend doing that. Number one, you can start by piloting things, and you don't have to start at some insanely high segment because maybe you don't even have access to that right now. So you can still start working with folks and come in with pilot pricing, meaning you're not even charging a huge amount, but in working with folks, you're hearing what their actual problems are. You're coming up with solutions for them. And the goal is, at least from my point of view, I don't want people to rent my mind. I want to create an end-to-end process that I don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. I know the outcomes people will get because it's a proven process. And when you have an end-to-end framework that you support people with, you can keep optimizing and tweaking. So let's say you get whatever your thing, and we could invent a niche here, but you walk someone through a process and that leads them closer to the outcome they want. You kind of refine what you're doing and do it again. Now you're creating your own signature process. You're collecting case stories, and then you can start increasing your prices on the way. And that will build your confidence because you'll know, hey, I worked with these 6 people and they got this result. In fact, I have a new client right now who's a chiropractor switching to create an online business. He's working with Sachin Patel, who's given him a program to do that. And this is exactly where he's at. He's run a pilot program. He helped like 7 people lose 28 pounds each in 6 weeks. That will build your confidence when you have something that's working. And then you continue refining what you're doing and making it better and better. And then it's quite easy, relatively speaking, to ascend in your the markets you're serving, because you get people results, and that confidence comes through in everything else.
So what do you think, from the young entrepreneur's perspective, what do you think are the 1, 2, 3, whatever number it is, qualities or characteristics that a budding entrepreneur should be focused on developing in order to get the results that they're looking for?
Sure. So perseverance, building relationships, providing value. Relationships are the most important thing you could ever create. It's the one thing that when you're on your deathbed, you're not thinking about anything except your relationships. At home, your relationships, your professional relationships. The fastest way to grow anything is with relationships. That could be mentors, it could be clients, it could be joint venture partners, referral partners, investors. The way you make any of that happen is by creating relationships. And that involves going to where your ideal people are online. What events are they going to? Always trying to surround yourself with people smarter than you that stretch the fabric of your brain of what you believe is possible, and continuously learning and seeking to create your sweet spot, the one thing you'll be known for. Because if you're known for a lot of things, you're known for nothing. If you're known for your one thing, then it's way easier to send you referrals. It's way easier for you to talk about what you do because you have your sweet spot where you're providing value. So for younger people looking to kind of get up and going, read a lot, watch a lot of YouTube trainings. You can pick any particular topic and become a subject matter expert in not a long window of time. Like when I started studying a little bit about crypto, not that I'm some whiz kid in it, but if you're plowing through hours a day of YouTube videos, all of a sudden you know way more than anyone else around you. So you can become a subject matter expert in short order. And one other quick tip, you can dive into a program that solves a certain problem. And then after you go through that and understand it, you can offer that as a service to other people and charge pretty damn good money for it. Like as an example, if you went through, let's say, Ryan Levesque's program on creating quiz surveys, and you buy that program for $2,000, you learn how to do it. Now you have something to offer someone else. You can say, hey, you want me to build you a quiz funnel? It's $10,000. So you can learn something and immediately start offering that as a service and a way to make revenue without even inventing the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
Let someone else hand you the wheel.
I love that. Let somebody else hand you the wheel. Love that. So you're the relationships expert. If you were to pick one thing that really has served you in building and growing great relationships, what would be that one thing?
Well, I'll cheat. This will be two things: listening and then providing value first. So listen to, it doesn't matter if you're talking to someone super high level or not. They still have needs. They still have things they're trying to accomplish. So when you simply ask what those are, and then look for ways to be of service. I'll give a couple examples, but the way I recommend people look at this, and I walk my clients through the same thing, look at what your superpowers are. What are ways you can provide value that actually come pretty easy to you? And they'll be different for each of us. My superpowers are my network, so I can talk to basically anyone and have good connections for them. I can help them with joint venture strategy. I can help them with frictionless systems, like just better ways to manage information. But these could be personal topics too. Like I've jumped on a call with a client's kid explaining which electric skateboard or one wheel to buy, because I'm familiar with those things because I ride them and so do my kids. Or I've talked Dan Martell how to take his family to Burning Man. Like there's different ways to provide value. One last example, when I first was introduced to a gentleman named Yannick Silver, who runs a mastermind called the Mavericks, Um, I got on that call, and this is the whole point: listen and provide value. I was like, okay, great to meet you, Yannick. You're running all these businesses. You probably have a lot of information to manage, and I assume sometimes that might be a little much to keep tabs of. Is that right? It's like, well, yeah. And I'm like, would you be interested in me helping you for free to show you a system for managing information so you can find anything you need in 5 seconds? It will save you a minimum of 3 hours a week. That adds up to 144 hours a year, or 18 working days of reclaimed time. And I'm happy to help you with that, just to help you out with that. Which of course he's like, hell yeah, that sounds great. And then by scheduling that session and starting to show him how to do that, we just became friends and figured out we have all kinds of great connections for each other. So not that you need to rope yourself into a bunch of free work or something, but just look for ways to be of service. Like I was invited to a mastermind with Eben Pagan a while back, and I noticed no one in the room was taking photos, and I happened to be good at that. So I asked Eben and his wife, do you guys want some photos? And Annie was like, absolutely. I don't think Eben cared, but so I saw a need. I analyzed, can I help meet that need? In these examples, of course, yes. Snapped some shots and shared them with them. I'm not asking for anything back. I'm just looking for ways to be of service. And when you operate that way, so many opportunities. People pick up on the first ring. You have a wake of goodwill in front of you at all times.
I think that's exactly right. I feel 100% that way. What can you do? How do you give? What does that look like? So, got a curveball question for you, just for fun.
Sure.
What have you not done yet that's on your bucket list?
Well, let's see. The Maldives Islands, I think, would be pretty nice. I'll be in Belize in 2 weeks. That would be cool. Let's see what else that I've done skydiving and stuff, the tandem dives. I'd love to learn to solo dive. That sounds fun. My wife's dissuaded me of that since we have adorable children, but I kind of look at the stats. If it's more dangerous to drive on the freeway, then who cares? Anyway, let's see what else. I have a few things. I want to engineer myself out of the business so I can play around however I feel inclined, but know that if a bus hit me, it would keep going. That's probably less exciting of a bucket list item, but yeah. And I'd like to create a pathway to help girls achieve entrepreneurial freedom, which is quite important to me. I'm raising my daughters to be entrepreneurial minded girls, and my 12-year-old just landed a book deal this week. So, on the path for that. I think empowering women through entrepreneurship and being good with money and resources, so they can operate without ever feeling dependent, and they can go create the life they want.
I have to share a victory also with you. Just a couple hours ago, my daughter Camille, that you've met, I believe, was dancing on a stage in Zurich, Switzerland. After 17 years of training as a ballerina, this was her first ever paid gig several hours ago today.
Oh, wow. Phenomenal. And Zurich, how amazing is that?
Yeah, she's on tour now for the next month. I'll be going over there to see her in a few weeks, but pretty amazing to me to see that an investment of 17 years. She started when she was 4 years old. She's now just turned 21. That an investment of 17 years finally, like, bam, now she's on the main stage and now she's dancing in Zurich. So, for everybody that's out there watching, it is doable. Sometimes it takes a big investment, sometimes a smaller one, but eventually you can get there if you have that kind of passion and commitment. So, Charles, 3 books that you would recommend to any young or budding or even seasoned entrepreneur that would help them with their entrepreneurial journey. The 3 that you would recommend would be?
So one is the 4 disciplines of execution. It's a framework for prioritizing things and managing them. It basically creates scoreboards for everything, so you can choose your wildly important goals, typically only like 1 or 2. You have those wildly important goals, and then the whirlwind, that's where your time blows all around. So having targets for those top level things that you do no matter what, and you can tell in a glance if you're winning or losing. Did I hit this or did I not? So that book, I recommend. Another one, it's a negotiation book, and I'm a fan of Chris Voss too, but I read a book before I knew about Chris called Getting More. It's a longer book. I've listened to it many times, and I use those techniques constantly, and they work very well. So internalizing a skill set that just gives you a big advantage in different things you're doing, because most people don't even try. So if you try, you always end up with better outcomes. Not that you land everything you want, but more things come along. And let's see, a 3rd book, Tiny Habits. I actually just met the author a week and a half ago at the Genius Network annual event. But Tiny Habits book, it's introducing a new habit can be a difficult thing. So little things like look at a habit structure you already have. Maybe you wake up, you brush your teeth, you make coffee, or whatever your routine. If you want to insert a new habit, figure out where in that routine you're going to put it. So you don't have to figure out where does this fit in my day? And then it doesn't. So you don't make the move, but rather you're like, oh, directly after I get coffee, I do 20 push-ups, or like you choose that entry point. So that kind of thinking where you can, I'm a fan of removing the thinking out of processes. So you're able to flow on autopilot and get consistent results. It's like the same reason I choose to run every day, because then I don't have to have the debate. Am I going to run today or tomorrow? No, maybe I'll do it Thursday. Yeah, I'll just do it another day. If the agreement is I run every day, there is no debate. There's no dialogue. There's just running through vineyards and staying in shape. So those kind of things, books like I shared here will be useful for.
Thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. So as we're kind of wrapping this up a little bit, what sort of the golden nugget from the JV expert, relationships expert, systems expert, Charles Byrd, what would you want to share with the entrepreneurs that are out there as your sort of final words or final thoughts based on what we've talked about?
Sure. Well, it can feel like the day's so busy that there's not time to build and maintain relationships, because you have various demands for your time and attention, and it can truly feel like there's not time for relationships. So an exercise I like to guide people to do is, I'll give a tiny bit of backstory. I was at an event several years ago talking with a friend for hours, and when we were wrapping up, he was like, hey, if I ever come to mind, just ping me. And I'm like, well, what if you're at dinner with your kids? What if you're in a webinar? Like, just seems so weird. Then I was like, screw it. I'm going to do that with everybody. So when someone comes to mind, shoot them a text. send them an email, send them an audio note, shoot them a video. They're coming to mind because something reminded you of them. Maybe you just booked a call with their best friend, or saw, one of their friends at an event, or maybe they're into technology and you just bought a new camera. They pop to mind because something reminded you of them. So just ping them and bring that up. I was driving with my daughter to get new snowboard gear, and some song came on and it reminded me of this music producer friend of mine. So right then, driving with my daughter, I'm like, hey, this song came on, reminded me of you. I'm hanging out with Kyla, just checking in. And this helps you build and connect, keep relationships strong over time. So you're not just pinging people when you want their input on something. As a converse example, there's a woman I'm friends with, but I haven't talked to her in 2 years. And I get a voice memo. Hey, let's jump on an hour-long call. I want to bounce some ideas off of you of my new thing. And I'm thinking, I haven't heard from you in 2 years. I don't have an extra hour to donate. Versus if she'd been in touch and sending pictures on trips and sending intros, that's a whole different story. Like, there's someone looking out for you. So be the person that stays in touch and builds those relationships and is always serving, because again, it comes around in spades.
I absolutely love that. If you ever come to mind, just ping me. Right. Just so good. It's so good, so clean, so real. And Charles, so needed in this divisive, crazy world that we live in. What a beautiful thing to be that person that is the connector, the person that makes that makes those threads happen between people all the time. I just want to say, obviously we go back a ways now, and I'm so grateful for our relationship and friendship. And thank you so much for your contribution to the Groove community, your wisdom, your thoughts. It's been really amazing, and I deeply, deeply appreciate you.
I deeply appreciate you too as well, Ridley. Thanks for having me on the show. And I look forward to hanging out with you soon.
You bet, for sure. Thanks, brother. Ciao for now.
Ciao.